Is trading 80% psychology, as many people claim? The answer is no. Means if you do not have a setup which is profitable, how is psychology going to help you? And even if you look at books on trading psychology, the first thing they tell you is to find a profitable setup. So, how is psychology really going to solve your trading problem? If you have a problem of entry, is psychology going to help in overcoming your problem of entry? No, because you designed your trading setup wrong, and that is why you're not entering it at the right time. Similarly, if exit is something which you are struggling with, then it is also a function of what kind of setup you're trading and what are your exit rules. So, this whole thing saying that psychology is 80% is really misleading for new traders. If you once you have a good setup and once you have everything in place and then you add psychology to it, you will be able to make more money. But in the beginning, psychology is not going to make you profitable. And unfortunately, there are more psychologists floating around nowadays who are claiming this, or there are other people who are claiming this. But I really don't see how. And I talk to a lot of people who are very successful traders, and they're not saying that psychology is 80%. They are saying that it is most important to find a setup and become an expert in that particular setup. So, if you discount this 80% is psychology, and even if psychology is important, what psychology is really important, you need to understand. And for that to understand, realize that like studies based on human performance, studies based on how human learn. There is like an actual psychologist who studied this, like Albert Bandura was one of the very well-known psychologists who studied this, and he died last year in July. Now, Albert Bandura, when he studied this, he has a concept called self-efficacy belief, or like the human behavior, or anything which you try and do in your life is a function of what is your self-efficacy belief. A trader who is successful has a very high self-efficacy belief about a particular setup. Like, I know my setup about momentum burst, or I know my setup for anticipation, or I have a very high self-efficacy belief to find and trade successfully an episodic pivot. So, self-efficacy belief is the psychological concept which you need to understand. Self-efficacy belief are your own belief in your ability to conduct a particular performance. Like if you are good at cooking a barbecue, you have a high self-efficacy belief about cooking barbecue. Similarly, some of you might have a very high self-efficacy belief about your dancing skills. I have a very low self-efficacy belief about my dancing skills. You have, most of us as an adult have high self-efficacy belief in our driving ability, so much so that we are not even aware when we are driving. So self-efficacy belief is more important as a psychological concept if you want to be a successful trader. Now, how does self-efficacy belief form, or how self-efficacy belief gets enhanced? And the research on that shows that there are 5 mechanisms by which self-efficacy belief is built. And number 1 mechanism is called as mastery experience. And out of the 5 things which are important for developing self-efficacy belief, you will see that the number 1 is mastery experience. Mastery experience is something where you spend time and effort in trying to master a particular skill or a particular field. So if you see a kid who is learning to walk, he spends hours, months trying to perfect it, right? So he becomes master of walking, and once he's developed that self-efficacy belief about walking, rest of the life he is not really spending time on developing self-efficacy belief about walking. Similarly, if you have like spent a lot of time and years dancing, or you're like one of the TikTok stars who's making videos about dancing, you have very high self-efficacy belief about dancing, right? And you have spent a lot of time on developing that. Similarly, like you see the kids who learn basketball, they spend hours shooting basket. They develop high self-efficacy belief by mastering how to shoot baskets from various angles. So mastery experience is a very important psychological concept which is important for you to get better at trading. So number one, self-efficacy belief is driven by self-mastery experience. The number two is vicariously watching somebody perform a skill. If you are not done the things, but like if you watch somebody doing it vicariously, that itself can increase your self-efficacy belief, because then you look at that and you look at that person. That person can dance, that John can dance, then I can also dance, right? So as a result of that, watching others do vicariously trading can help you gain self-efficacy belief. When you see traders who are successful trading and you see how much money they make, then it can change your self-efficacy belief. Third thing is social persuasion. Social persuasion is the kind of people you hang around with, or the social message which comes to you. You're trying to become a TikTok dancing sensation, and your mom tells you, look, and don't do dancing, you are terrible at dancing, or like you get negative messages from your friend, your self-efficacy belief is going to go down. Or they just look at your TikTok video and point out every single mistake which you made during that dance, then the social persuasion aspect will come into play. Similarly, in trading, you see a lot of contrary messages coming at traders, especially new traders, and especially people become very bitter in this field, those who don't hit success in this field. And they continuously give you negative messages or like belittle people who are trying to learn trading. And as a result, you will see that social persuasion can act as a negative self-efficacy belief developer. The fourth thing is visualization. Research has shown that in order to have a higher self-efficacy belief, visualization is very important. If you visualize a performance in your own mind before performing, like you visualize your trading before performing the trading, that can enhance your self-efficacy belief. And the fifth thing is psychosomatic state, which in a simple language means if you are sick or if you have some other distraction, then that is going to determine your self-efficacy belief. You might be a very good trader, but you have a flu. Then during that time frame, you're not going to be very confident in your trading ability. So if you want to really develop psychology of trading or become good at trading, try and understand Albert Bandura's self-efficacy belief theory. That is real psychology. And that will tell you that the first thing which you need to do in order to become good at trading is mastery experience. How do you create a mastery experience for yourself is what is going to determine your self-efficacy belief. Like on this weekend on the member side, I gave them an exercise on studying bottom bounces, at least studying 500 bottom bounces. So whoever did that exercise, if they studied 500 bottom bounces, they would have developed a mastery in understanding and identifying a bottom bounce and how to trade it. Now, these kind of a psychological techniques are going to work. Why? Because that is how all human behavior is learned, and that is how you develop confidence in your trading ability. Anything else which is like a gimmicky kind of a psychological techniques, like take your pulse, read do this thing and all that thing, is not going to work. So whenever you hear that trading psychology is 80%, I would take it with a pinch of salt, because talk to traders who are very successful. Okay, they are not going to tell you that you look at psychology is what they fixed and they became successful. They became successful. They spent years studying a particular setup. Once they became good at it, that was the mastery experience. As a result of that mastery experience, they developed self-efficacy belief in trading that particular setup. And then remaining things comes in terms of vicariously. They saw somebody, or they were influenced by somebody who they could see. If you studied many successful traders like Paul Tudor Jones. Paul Tudor Jones was trained by a person who was a trader in a cotton exchange, and that person was highly successful. As a result of that, he learned vicariously, and also the social persuasion that he can do it, kind of a thing, right? And in fact, if you read his story, he got fired because of psychosomatic state, where like he was working for the trader, and he drank too much, and next day morning he was sleeping at his desk and he got fired. So that's an example of like in a psychosomatic state, where if you drink too much, you're not going to have the confidence to trade well. So if you continue to hear that trading psychology is 80% and 20% is rest mechanics of trading, I would say 80% is getting a successful setup, mechanics right, and then on top of that, if you add psychology, then you're going to be successful. Otherwise, you can go to the best psychologist in the world and you're not going to become a successful trader. So discount this whole thing, 80% psychology shit. It's just a bullshit.